Being is your deepest self. You spoke earlier about the importance of having deep roots within or inhibiting the body. Can you explain what you mean by that? The body can become a point of access into the realm of being. Let's go into the more deeply now. I'm still not quite sure if I fully understand what you mean by being. Water? What do you mean by that? I don't understand it. I don't understand it. This is what a fish should say if it had a human mind. Please stop trying to understand being. You have already had a significant glimpse of being, but the mind will always try to squeeze it into a little box and then put a label on it. It cannot be done. It can not become an object of knowledge. In being, subject and object merge into one. Being can be felt as the ever-present I am that is beyond name and form. To feel and thus to know what you are and to abide in that deeply rooted state is enlightenment. Is a truth that Jesus says will make you free. Being can be felt as the ever-present I am that is beyond name and form. To feel and thus to know that you are and to abide in that deeply rooted state is enlightenment, is a truth that Jesus says will make you free. Free from what? Free from the illusion that you are nothing more than your physical body and your mind. The illusion of self, as the Buddha calls it, is a core error. Free from fear in its countless disguises as the inevitable consequence of that illusion, the fear that is your constant tormentor as long as you derive your sense of self only from this ephemeral and a vulnerable form, and free from sin, which is the suffering you consciously inflict on yourself and others, as long as this illusory sense of self governs what you think, say, and do. Look beyond the words. I don't like the word sin. It implies that I'm being judged and found guilty. I can understand that. Over the centuries, many erroneous views and interpretations have accumulated around words such as sin due to ignorance, misunderstanding, or a desire to control, but they contain an essential core of truth. If you are unable to look beyond such interpretations and so cannot recognize the reality to which the word points, then don't use it. Don't get stuck on the level of words. A word is no more than a means to an end. It's an abstraction. Not unlike a signpost, it points beyond self. The word honey isn't honey. You can study and talk about honey for as long as you like, but it won't really know it until you taste it. After you have tasted it, the word becomes less important to you. You won't be attached to it anymore. Similarly, you can talk and think about God continuously for the rest of your life, but doesn't that mean you know or have even glimpsed the reality to which the word points. It really is no more than an obsessive attachment to a signpost, a mental idol. The reverse also applies. If for whatever reason you dislike the word honey, that might prevent you from ever tasting it. If you had a strong aversion to the word God, which is a negative form of attachment, you may be denying not just the word but also the reality to which it points. It would be cutting yourself off from the possibility of experiencing that reality. All this is, of course, intrinsically connected with being identified with your mind. So if the word doesn't work for you anymore, then drop it and replace it with one that does work. If you don't like the word sin, then call it unconsciousness or insanity. That may get you closer to the truth, the reality behind word that alone misuse word like sin and leaves little room for guilt. I don't like the word either. I don't like those words either. They imply that there is something wrong with me. I am being judged. Of course there is something wrong with you, and you're not being judged. I don't mean to offend you personally, but do you not belong the human race that has killed over 100 million members of their own species in the 20th century alone? You mean guilt by association? It is not a question of guilt, but as long as you are run by the egoing mind, you are part of the collective insanity. Perhaps you haven't looked very deeply into human condition in its state of dominance by the egoing mind. Open your eyes and see the fear, despair, the greed, and the violence that are all pervasive. See the heinous cruelty and suffering on an unimaginable scale that humans have inflicted and continue to inflict on each other as well as on other life forms on the planet. You don't need to condemn, just observe. That is sin. That is insanity. That is unconsciousness. Above all, don't forget to observe your own mind. Seek out the root of the insanity there. Finding your invisible and deconstructible reality. You said that identification with our physical form is part of the illusion. So what can the body, the physical form, bring you to a realization of being? The body that you can see and touch cannot take you into being. But that visible and tangible body is only the outer shell, or rather a limited and distorted perception of a deeper reality. In your natural state of connectedness with being, this deeper reality can be felt every moment as the invisible inner body, the animated presence with you, within you. So to inhabit the body is to feel the body from within, to feel the life inside the body, and thereby come to know that you are beyond the outer form. But this is only the beginning of the inward journey that will take you ever more deeply into the realm of great stillness and peace, yet also of great power and vibrant life. At first, you may only get a fleeting glimpse of it, but through them, you'll begin to realize that you are not just a meaningless fragment in an alien universe, briefly suspended between birth and death, allowed a few short-lived pleasures followed by pain and ultimate annihilation. Underneath your outer form, you are connected with something so vast, so immeasurable and sacred that it cannot be conceived or spoken of, yet I'm speaking of it now. I'm speaking of it not to give you something to believe in, but to show you how you can know it for yourself. You're cut off from being as long as your mind takes up all your attention. When this happens, and it happens continuously for most people, you're not in your body. The mind absorbs all your consciousness and transforms it into mind stuff. You cannot stop thinking. Compulsive thinking has become a collective disease. Your whole sense of who you are is then derived from mind and activity. Your identity, as it is no longer rooted in being, becomes a vulnerable and ever needy mental construction which creates fear as the predominant underlying emotion. And one thing that truly matters is then missing from your life awareness of your deeper self, your invisible and deconstructible reality. To become conscious of being, you need to reclaim consciousness from the mind. This is one of the most essential tasks on your spiritual journey. To become conscious of being, you need to reclaim consciousness from your mind. This is one of the most essential tasks on your spiritual journey. To become conscious of being, you need to reclaim consciousness from your mind. This is one of the most essential tasks on your spiritual journey.